The title of your message, as you told me, is "It's Been a Long Time Getting Here." What a great title, you know. So I have to say, it's been an honor and a privilege to be a witness. Here, why don't you come on up? Come on up. It's been an honor and a privilege to be a witness to a part of your journey, of that long journey, and to be one of the many recipients of, we'll call it collateral blessings to your journey. So speaking for myself, and I'm sure echoed by many others, we have learned so much from you in so many ways. And we have been given a number of wonderful opportunities in our movement because of you. Your sense of ethics and justice serve as a model for us all. And as I have said before, at other times, you are the visionary and architect of Beth Messiah congregation to this day. And you have played a significant role in the same ways in the development of the modern Messianic Jewish movement. Clearly, your imprint is on many organizations and people in our sphere, in our little world. You epitomize the idea of being a lifelong learner, as well as a teacher, author, mentor, and friend to many. There are so many stories we could tell about you. The wonderful thing about Elliot here is Elliot takes the serious things seriously, but not himself. I think of progressive dinners where you dressed and dressed and dressed for the occasion. I can think of a garage sale where you modeled the clothes that were available. And if only we had the opportunity to show it. Not everyone knows that originally Mount Rushmore included another face. So you certainly were there from the very beginning. And that's what we love about you. You bring a smile to all of our faces. When I think of Elliot Clayman, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. Yet at the same time, recognizing the weight of what you have brought to all of our lives. You have been blessed with a wonderful family, right? With certainly a wonderful, wonderful wife. There's not enough words to speak about Joyce and you. But also Seth and Rachel, Rena and Jason, and your wonderful and beautiful grandchildren, Anya, Shai, Lena, and Tali, and your extended family. It's just such a blessing, right? And so may you and Joyce enjoy many more happy birthdays, anniversaries, and family celebrations. And may you live to 120. Amen. Elliot, come and share with us this morning.
You make it really hard to follow and to live up with those accolades. I was caught by surprise. I certainly thought that, everybody knew it was my 80th, the Howard and the like, and I thought, we have an egg or something, Shai came up to me, and I knew it was Shai, but it didn't fit. So I didn't want, I thought, maybe it's not, maybe it's a look-alike. I thought, did I look puzzled? I did. Of course, then when I looked over, it became even more surreal. Like, what kind of movie is this? I mean, if there's a surprise, I'm the one to be perpetrating it, right? Right? I don't think that I've never been surprised to this extent or to any extent of, because, I'm a sleuth. I've tried to find out beforehand what's going on. I can't believe that nobody, I talk to my brother all the time, nobody let it slip. If anybody was going to let it slip, it would have been Marty. No question, right? And Joy said, well, I said, how long have they known it? Well, they've known it for a while, And I was just here last month, in March. Well, almost, a little longer. So I knew we were coming to Columbus, and Howard asked me to give the message, and I said, sure. And then he said, what's the title? I said, I'll tell you tomorrow. I didn't really have a title because I didn't have a message. And which was actually everything's unusual about this, really, because usually I'm prepared beforehand, I'm working on it, for at least a week and the like. And I had other things that intervened, and I had to get off my table. And so I thought, well, I'll give him a title. I don't know. It's been a long time getting here. And I thought after I gave the title, now I got to fit the message under that. That's a tough one, I don't want to talk about myself, and there's no need to because Howard already did. And yet I'm called to give a message that's not just relevant, that can fit the situation of everybody here at Beth Messiah today in this room. And for that, I'm going to leave that to the Lord, because that is an impossibility with man, and certainly with me, right? So this message turns out to be totally different than any that I've given, because usually, I try to give a message that is more of a drosh, a sermon that goes to the heart, And I do teach, of course, and this is sort of something in between. I'm just going to trust that it's of the Lord. Don't feel bad about me becoming 80. I mean, it is a shame that 2/3 of my life is over. But 80 is the new 79. So it's not such a big deal, 80 years is a long time coming, but it's a short time getting there. It's a long time coming, but it's a short time getting here. It was a long time looking forward, but it's a short time looking backward. In other words, it goes quick, but it's a long time going quick. Yes, it's been a long time coming for Israel. It's been a long time coming and getting here for the Messianic Jewish movement. It's been a long time coming to where we are at Beth Messiah Congregation. But we are well on our way. And that's the trilogy I want to talk about this morning. Still is. I want to talk about Israel and the Jewish people. I want to talk about the Messianic Jewish, of which we are a part of, the Messianic Jewish movement, of which we are a part of. I want to talk about Beth Messiah, whose family we're in. In Romans 9:26-27, and in this way all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, the deliverer shall come from Zion. He will turn godlessness away from Jacob. This is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. The story of Israel, the Israelites, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, is one of a tortuous journey. Oppression through Egypt and Babylon and the Medes and the Persians and the Greeks and the Romans, and 2 exiles, 586 BCE, the Babylonian exile, and there in Babylon, which is Iraq today, modern Iraq, and 70 years later, many returned, and then only to be constructively expelled in 70 CE. In the diaspora, outside of the land, the Jewish people were prey to the beast of the nations. Under Christian rule, throughout the Middle Ages, they were persecuted, slaughtered, devoured by the chaos monsters who fed on anti-Jewish hatred, fueled by the worst of the base nature of man and woman and humankind. Christianity, or Christendom, was theologically enmeshed in Israel's displacement. That was a big energy and thrust to displace Israel physically and spiritually as well. And Christianity's substitution, replacement, led to the triumphant march to prove Christianity's superiority by forced conversions and slayings of the Jews. In 1095, the Crusaders set out with the Pope's blessing to their conquering grounds in the holy city of Jerusalem to uproot the infidels. I'm talking about Muslims. I'm talking about Islam. And liberate the city for Christian internationalism rule. Christian internationalism. Muslims were perceived as polluting God's city with a particular strange monotheistic view of God and diverse practices. Now on their way to the Holy Land, Crusaders engaged in the sport of going after the Jewish people, insisting the Jews were Christ killers. They ran them through with swords and left many enshrined in their own blood who preferred to die Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify the name of God. Many Jews refused the Christian witness and conversion to Christ because the Crusaders' witness reeked with violence, and the Jews, violence against the Jews. And they're a paganized foreign religion that God had sternly prohibited. Their forced conversions or death ultimatums were not seen as any resemblance at all to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his Hebrew Bible prescription. In fact, conversion meant changing their faith and customs and becoming that which they were not. This was anathema to Jews whose faith and culture going back 2,500 years or so was threatened. Moreover, saying no to the Crusaders' Jesus was saying yes to God's covenant fidelity. Saying no to conversion, saying no to the Crusaders' attempts to force convert was saying yes to God. God never intended the Crusaders to make Christians or Catholics out of Jews and displace them in favor of a Christian triumphant religion and culture with its attempt to enforce a homogeneous religious existence for all, as opposed to the godly call of whosoever will, let him come. And you know, come as you are. With God, you know, you don't have to wash your clothes and go to the laundromat because I'm not ready. I have to go to the laundromat first. That's not God. God is come as you are, and bring your fruits of repentance there to the altar, and he will do the rest. That's the thing. He will do the rest. This maddening thrust, emboldened by the populace and the papacy, was man-made from below and not made from above. And we need to have that discernment and not to lead blindly through consensus validation and following the crowds to cross the street on the red light. Jews in the diaspora were prey for those who ravished and killed them because of their intense anti-Jewish sentiment formed by false pretenses that they killed Christ, that they killed the Messiah, or that they poisoned the wells or stole Catholic wafers and gleefully punctured them to reenact the death of Jesus, or the accusation that they killed Christian children and drained their blood to use in the preparation of matzah for Passover. Yes, Christians can come in all kinds of clothing and hearts. We see what a believer does, and that's one of the ways in which we make our discernment and determination. Of course, none of these accusations were true. Even the Catholic Church debunked them. And as regarding the blood libel, if they would have just read the scriptures, and seen that Jewish people kept themselves from blood, they weren't to be involved in mixing it with other foods like matzah and drinking it. It was fake news. Fake news. Absolutely. And it was conspiratorial as well. Okay? So we need to keep our eyes on the Lord. On the Lord, because he will lead us and guide us and give us the correct direction. So people believe what they wanted to believe without the evidence, without using their God-given mental critical skills. And because of greed and jealousy and embedded, basically, an embedded anti-Jewish sentiment. Then came the Inquisitions that culminated in the Jews' expulsion from Spain in 1492. There were Jews who did convert in Spain to Catholicism. For some it was real. For others it was a way to improve their economic lot in life. For still others, it was a way in which they could keep their lives by feigning conversion and live. And the history of the auto de fe, the burning of basically who became martyrs, including Jews, and other caught not adhering to the faith, or imprisonment or other penalties which were levied against them because they were suspected of refusing pork, or lighting candles on Shabbat, or doing Jewish ritual, or worshiping God in their customary Jewish way. It brought the wrath of the clergy and the state upon them. Finally, believing that the non-converted Spanish Jews were seeking to influence the converts to relapse, to return to Judaism, the Spanish sovereignty expelled them from the land, and the rest is history. Spain had achieved the apex of its dream, Christian nationalism, totally. The entire peninsula, or the entire Spain, was now Christian. And that was their goal. And that's what they achieved, having purged the Jews. The Jews wandered throughout the Mediterranean world: Portugal, Italy, France, Greece, Turkey, the Maghreb, which is the Islamic lands, which would include Turkey, where their treatment was much better than they received under Western Christianity. Many of them had gravitated to a safer place. These were the conversos. That included the conversos, or the disparaging term which was given to them, Marranos, meaning pigs, some who were truly Jewish believers in Yeshua there in the 15th century. In 1648, in some circles, as the time of the known as the time of the footsteps of the Messiah, 100,000 Jewish people were killed during a Polish civil war pitting the peasants led by the Cossacks against wealthy Polish landowners, and both sides blamed the Jews. Blamed the Jews for consorting with the other side. The peasants were resentful of the Jews, who they believed were exacting high taxes in consort with basically the owners of the farms and the like. So the Cossack popular leader Chmielnicki organized against the Poles and the Jews and slaughtered them by the most merciless, cruel, brutal means. From 1903 to 1906, pogroms occurred in Russia under Tsar Nicholas. My grandparents, all four of them, left their homeland in the Pale of Settlement in part because of the pogroms. Also because of the conscription, where they were conscripting Jews and others, of course, into the army, and they didn't want to fight for them. 100,000 Jews were killed in attacks upon the Jewish settlements between 1918 to 1921 in Russia, in Ukraine, in Poland, stirred up by anti-Jewish frenzy. This was a prelude to the German Holocaust to come. I don't have to reiterate the heights of anti-Semitism that broke out in Germany, resulting in the diabolical genocide of 6 million Jews, humiliated, shot, gassed, burned, and their bodies turned into fertilizer to enrich the land for the farmer's produce. And then comes to October the 7th. I forget the years. I mean, I'm 80, you know. And so it has no rival for brutality against the Jews in the 21st century. When upwards of 2,000 Hamas and Gazans acted subhuman, consumed in Dante delirium and wild savagery, and killing no fewer than 1,200 Israelis at that time and taking about 250 hostages. It's all for these victims. It is for these martyrs who we remember. Yet I cannot believe that there is no vindication. I cannot believe that somewhere in the efficacy and economy of God that there will not be some vindication here for us. I believe that they suffered and died for a reason, and I don't know that reason, and I don't understand it, nor do I purport to, but I know that the God of who he is and of this world will do what's good and will do what is right. It's for God to reveal in his time. It's been a long time getting here. It's been a long time coming, and it can't come fast enough as regarding come, Lord Yeshua, come. Come, Lord Yeshua, come. The modern Messianic Jewish movement. To some extent, we pattern ourselves after the first century congregations, which had a Jewish awareness, which had a Jewish neshama, soul. We know that, if I can turn the page here, you know, your fingers start to get dry too. The older you get. It's true. Yeah. And forbid that you should, and you'll know this, that you should touch anything. You know, just boom. You know, it's just like the skin is so thin. I'm thin-skinned. Rabbi Gamaliel in the scriptures, you know, when confronted by the Jewish leadership as to what we should do with these Meshuggahs who are extolling a man named Yeshua as if he's God, said this. And this was Rabbi Gamaliel, not a believer, at least not at that time, and he was esteemed, you know. I mean, he Uh, probably Rabbi Saul, Paul probably sat under him, actually. Leave these men alone. Let them go. For if their purpose or activity is on human origin, it will fail. But if it is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will only find yourselves fighting against God. The modern Messianic movement in the United States came out of a move of God. It wasn't intentional down here, certainly by God. After 2,000 years lying dormant, it emerged as individuals scattered throughout the United States who were swept up within a larger Jesus movement, which attracted young men and women who sought a more relational, spiritual life through Jesus. Primarily youths in the late 1960s and 70s, small groupings, counterculturalists, dissatisfied with the status quo and their parents' religious or secular values, provided the spark that resulted in a wave of Jewish people caught up in a rebirth, a Jewish messianism from a long hibernation. Jewish believers seeking the like-minded for fellowship were not endeared by the Hebrew Christian movement anymore, like they were in the past, that focused on missionary ties to the church and only coming together as Jews on special occasions. They sought more of a Jewish identity and alignment. The new Jew wanted to live a Jewish lifestyle, celebrating Jewish holidays and Shabbat with Yeshua-centeredness like we did to this morning, adopting Jewish traditions and adhering more to a first century Messianic Jewish prototype. They embraced a Jewish lifestyle, not as a shtick, but as a internalized Jewish reality. By the middle 1970s, there were 21 Messianic Jewish congregations in North America, most of them who were independent of denominations. In 1979, the Union of Messianic Jewish Congregations formed, which is an umbrella organization which Beth Messiah has been a charter member. In 1985, the AMS, the International Association of Messianic Jewish Congregations and Synagogues, was formed as well. And together, those two organizations today probably represent at least 200 Messianic congregations in the U.S. And I'm being conservative and not fudging here because some of the congregations are not really, they're smaller, groups and fellowships. In Israel, Messianic congregations and believers have proliferated to about 20 to 25,000 believers, Jewish believers, and 150 home groups, fellowships, and congregations. I've heard higher numbers. I'm keeping it conservative. There are no fewer than 500 Messianic Jewish works throughout the world. We are becoming more and more visible. We have more congregations than Reconstruction Judaism has synagogues. And we outnumber some of the smaller branches as well. We are the scriptural remnant, which will grow. That means that we're planting the seeds today for the tomorrow, for the perpetuation of the Jewish Yeshua movement that eventuates in all Israel shall be saved. So that today all Israel is being saved. We have the remnant, which is this group within the larger Jewish non-believing group, but that will grow and grow as the Apostle Paul saw and as we see as well. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Our time has indeed come. These congregations are diverse. They are all over the map, even theologically, but certainly within Orthodoxy. With this timing comes responsibility as God's torchbearers. He's equipped us individually, congregationally, and organizationally for the task at hand. We cannot afford to faint or be distracted from our calling. God's stewardship is much too serious. And in any event, the Messianic movement is a movement whose time has come, whether you put another label on it or whether you see it as the trigger and the thrust into even a new and higher realm. And it's been a long time getting here, which leads us to Beth Messiah Congregation. Hebrews 10:25. And do not neglect our own meetings, as is the habit of some, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Beth Messiah was born from fledgling beginnings, but no doubt a work of God that originated from God's heart and was received by those whom he called originally, which was 2 people, not me. It started as a fellowship, thereafter transformed into a full-service congregation in the summer of 1975, 225. This is all part of the 50th celebration whole year. And we're looking forward also to a bit of a renovation, aren't we? 2 believers came together with a heart for Jewish people and Jewish outreach. It took a doctor and a doctor-to-be. I don't know if Bob Weiner was a doctor at that point. He went to Cincinnati after his undergrad, and Dr. Bruce McCoy as well. They're both living. The first meeting took place in a 2.5-story building at 124 West 9th. You can go to 124th West 9th today. You won't see that building. They met regularly on Friday evenings. Although a small beginning, an embryonic work of God was planted. The locations have been 10 from its inception. It's a nice number. There's 10 commandments. There's a minyan. There's God says in the book of Genesis, in the first chapter, it says God says 10 times. A number that would have spared Sodom had there been 10 righteous, 10 plagues to take down Egypt's rule. So it's nice. 10 West 9th. It was sold. We had to leave. A basement in a bank on Carl and 161, it flooded out. We had to move. To the Clayman house around the corner, which was very, very, very difficult. You can talk to Joyce about that. We moved on with a couple children at that point, very, very young, and not easily to reconcile the setting up for Friday, the tearing down, and then the resetting on Sunday, and Passover, don't mention. Brimfield Court was the next, and that was owned by someone in our congregation who had moved, and then that was sold, and then East 14th, back down on campus, and then that building was sold, and then we went to Sandalwood Boulevard, back up where we lived, and that was unbearable. And so we went to Forest Edge, and where we went, they expanded. That's why they had, and they're at Forest Edge. They expanded, and there was no room in the inn for us. And the same thing happened at New Life. It expanded, and it was like, well, what about us? If we're facilitating this expansion, shouldn't we be a part of it? And then to the chapel at Blendon, just up the street there. And I don't know, was that owned by the Evangelical Friends? Or it was the Evangelical Friends. And that began really a new beginning for us. And we expanded, and they diminished. And so at first we rented, and then they said, well, would you think about a partnership? And then it was like, well, how about if you buy the whole thing? And we did. And there we thought that that was the final resting place, and we were going to be there, you know, and we're going to build there. And we got a knock on the door. Someone said, you know, this place, which really wasn't suitable for a whole lot of things, except a storage place, we'd like to give you $1.6 million for this place. I think we bought it for 300, something like that, you know. We said, what? and we said, okay, we got to find another place. And this is the place that we found. And how much was this? They wanted $3-point-something million, and that was a non-starter. And so I'm not saying that I'm a part of the art of the deal, but we negotiated. We negotiated, right? And it turned out to be $1.6 million. It was like, you know, we knew it was God. So that's where we've rested for about 18 years for now. All along the way of these 50 years, God has moved us around from wilderness to orchards to wilderness to orchards, and we landed here in the midst of God's almost perfect vineyard, and where Beth Messiah has really flourished. We've flourished in the midst of blessings, challenges, and struggles. We've been to the valleys of despair, discomfort, disappointment, and discouragement. And we've been to the mountains of blessings and joy, excitement, and praise. And we've all done it. We've done it together. We've done it syncretistic. We've done it each supporting the other. And each time we came to a place of rest, we heard God's voice say, you have lingered on this mount too long. And we, hearing God's calling, have picked up our hoe and our axe and our pruning hooks and our determinations and move forward in progress. Now we are in a venture of preparing this building for whatever God has in store for us. But it's preparation and it's service and it's yielding to God as far as serious renovation as we look for the city whose maker is God. Not adhering to complacency, but looking up and forward to the face of Messiah, who draws us closer to him and his will. What we do here, and I heard Jared say it in so many words, just like this, what we do here matters for what happens next. And that's every single day. What you do individually, what we do as a congregation, a village, so to speak, matters. We are truly co-workers in the kingdom of God, and as such, we're joint workers with the Messiah in his service. As for the congregational leaders, I think that they're on the wall somewhere here. Each one of them were selected by God for a reason, for development and maturation and learning for our community. And it's basically it's there to look back upon. These leaders pass the baton for the next phase, for the building process, physically and spiritually. We're locked in a social covenant together and in a spiritual one too, whether we know it or act it or not. Perhaps the individual names are not important, for names fade as ink, but the work remains for all time. But for the record, Bob Weiner, fellowship leader, Elliot Clayman, congregational leader, Michael Rydelnik, congregational leader, Michael Schiffman, congregational leader, and now Rabbi Howard Silverman, who I'm going to say has been here about 33 years, 34 years out of the 50 years. Do the math. Look, if it was out of 100 years, that'd be easy, 34. If it's out of 50, I guess you just divide it in half, and that's it. But from the beginning, we're talking about 2,500 Shabbats, We're talking about bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings and funerals. By the way, I didn't know what I was entering. You know, when I looked around, I thought, is this some type of celebration or is this a funeral? Am I living? You know, when I saw, and and 50 Passovers and 50 Sukkots and 50, the counting of the Omers, for 49, and then the 50 Shavuot, Hanukkah parties galore, forward in faith dinners and formal and informal gatherings with Bible studies and prayer meetings, sisterhoods and brotherhoods. Consistently, we've been sustained by God as a flagship Messianic congregation. We've held leadership roles in our parent organization, and we have selected some of the best scholars to present here through our Messianic Studies Institute that Henry leads so well. These are the pages of the past, which leads us to a glorious present and predictable future in Messiah as we seek to uplift Yeshua while we patiently await his return. We know that Beth Messiah's constituents will continue to change, but we know that Yeshua is constant and will sustain us through the time to come, building upon the work born of God. It's been a long time getting here, and we are here as a covenant community of the everlasting God for the long haul. We are the remnant of Israel. We are part of the Messianic Jewish movement. We are Beth Messiah. We are that family. Shabbat Shalom.